Once again, a huge thank you to everyone who supports the habit at patreon.com/doseofbuckley. But an even huger thank you to these people. Is huger a word? Now that I can afford a dictionary, I'll go find out. The court of public opinion is, I believe, pretty negative toward the court of public opinion. Like, if you ask most people if a person should be judged for a crime they're accused of before they've actually had their day in court, I think most people would go, what kind of question is that? Of course not, it's ridiculous. But we do it. We all do it. Yes, even you, sitting there right now thinking, I've never judged anyone in my entire life, I'm perfect, and the people that judge others without evidence are probably liberal losers with no jobs. And we've been doing it forever, okay? This isn't some new thing because of the internet. Your dad or grandpa read the paper in the morning when you were a kid, saw a story about some local politician being accused of stealing from the city, and grumbled, I knew this creep was a thief, they should just take him out back and shoot him. And so, this brings us to Justin Roiland, the co-creator and voices of Rick and Morty, voice of Lemon Grab on Adventure Time, and a bunch of other shit. I'm not reading his entire Wikipedia to you here. He had been charged with 1 felony count of domestic battery with corporal injury, and 1 felony count of false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, and or deceit. This is an old charge, originally happened in May of 2020. He's accused by an ex-girlfriend of hitting her and then not letting her leave. It took 3 years for this to finally get to court because, A, COVID slowed down the courts, and B, also due to COVID, there was a rise in domestic abuse cases, the exact same thing Roiland's accused of. There was also a rise in the birth rate during the pandemic, which suggests that when locked up together, couples are no different than prisoners. They'll either fight each other or fuck each other. But early this year, some various screenshots of text messages started making the rounds on Twitter. People were reminded that court dates were finally coming up. He was in the public eye because of his new game, High on Life, which did pretty well on Game Pass, but a lot of critics were like, I wish the characters would shut the fuck up for 12 seconds. And they patched in a slider in an update like 2 days after the game was released to turn down the frequency that your guns talk to you. Yeah, it's a weird game. And then Cartoon Network announced that they had ended their association with Justin Roiland, and that Rick and Morty would continue just without him. So we get tweets like this. Funny how everyone pretends to hate cancel culture, but when it happens to a guy whose cartoon they don't like, it's okay for some reason. 4.6 million views and only 410 likes, but 959 quote tweets? That's a ratio. The court of public opinion is in session in the replies. We have, you heard it here, guys. Getting fired for abusing women and sexually harassing minors is cancel culture. Oh, how evil of us to have gotten him fired. We should be ashamed of ourselves. That poor pedophile is out of a job because of a campaign we didn't even start. He falsely imprisoned and sexually assaulted a woman, says another person in all caps. While a fan chimes in, I like Rick and Morty, but also Justin Roiland is an abuser and a pedophile. Shoulder shrug emoji. Their minds are made up. He's a predator. Why? Well, aside from the felony charges, probably has something to do with those text messages I mentioned earlier, where he's talking with a girl who has school tomorrow, telling her she should just run away from home and go into sex slavery, while also typing in a Chinese accent for some reason. He appears to tell the same girl in another message, when you turn 18, you just start cam whoring, suggesting that he knows the girl he's speaking to is not 18. Another message shows him saying, I want to meet you in real life, jailbait. Are these text messages real? We can't say for sure, but this is real. Here's a clip of him from a podcast called The Grandma's Virginity Podcast, where, well, just have a listen.
I'm not a pedophile, though, all right? Jesus Christ.
Didn't really want...
I'm not attracted to fucking little kid bodies. I like fucking women bodies. Look, I'll say, look, a fucking 14-year-old that looks like she's 18 and, like, big titties and a nice...
Yeah.
Like, of course I'm attracted to that.
Ooh, yeah.
That's why this whole Chris Hansen thing, I'm like, fuck you, man. These girls are like, they're fully developed, and they're like, they talking online, I want you to fuck me.
You mean
and shit.
the girls that old men or women pretend to be to lure the pedophiles into the house?
Yeah, but they would email photos of what they look like, and the ones I saw were like, that girl's fully fucking developed woman. Yeah, like, Come on, back in like, how are we that fucking like as a race? Are we that crazy? Like when we were fucking 100 years ago, it was little 13-year-old girls. If they were built like a woman, they were getting married and having kids. And now we're gonna be all precious about it. I keep using the word precious today. That's the word of the week.
Which is a movie about a child molesting.
Precious,
right?
You're a Down syndrome baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways,
Whatever this podcast is, it's obviously just meant to be edgy for the sake of being edgy. Made abundantly clear at the end of that clip with the girl going, "Down syndrome baby," while someone makes fart noises. This isn't the height of intelligent comedy. You don't need to have a degree in theoretical physics to enjoy this one. And that's fine. I've made some dumb shit in my time too. But when you say shit like this, yes, the court of public opinion is gonna be a little fucking rough on you. Oh, I can't believe you'd say this guy who flat out tells us he's attracted to 14-year-olds who develop early and defends the idea of 13-year-olds being married as a creep without any evidence. Yeah, what a fucking world, am I right? Anyway, Justin did have his day in court. Sort of. And the charges were dropped. See, I don't know if this is better or worse. There was no trial. Justin wasn't proven innocent. The DA just kind of shrugged and said, all we got is a woman who will take the stand and say that the cartoon voiceover guy beat her and then wouldn't let her leave. We put that in front of a jury in a felony case where the result is a man could end up in prison, and we're getting laughed out of that courtroom. A jury of his peers didn't find him innocent, a judge didn't declare him innocent, a lawyer just said, fuck it, we can't win, so let's not try. Roiland released this statement, which he titled, Justice. I've always known that these claims were false, and I never had any doubt that this day would come. I'm thankful that this case has been dismissed, but at the same time, I'm still deeply shaken by the horrible lies that were reported about me during this process. Most of all, I'm disappointed that so many people were just so quick to judge without, knowing the facts, based solely on the word of an embittered ex trying to bypass due process and have me, canceled. That it may have succeeded even partially is shameful. However, now that the legal case has ended, I'm determined to move forward and focus on both my creative projects and restoring my good name. I don't know if you ever had a good name. Again, most people thought you were, at best, just a creepy weirdo with a bizarre sense of humor and not a flat-out sex pest towards teenagers who might hit a woman. But here's my hope, that Justin Roiland does move on, and in a way where he doesn't try and make himself a victim. It's one of the things I respected about Shane Gillis, the guy who was supposed to get the SNL gig, and then, whoops, turned out he said a bunch of weird racist shit on his edgy for the sake of being edgy podcast. You know what he didn't do? Go on Twitter and complain about cancel culture 30 times a week. No, he just kept doing his podcast, which now has nearly 54,000 subscribers on Patreon. Probably makes around $270,000 a month minimum. And he does his stand-up, and he says whatever the fuck he wants to say, and just gets the fuck on with it. Lets his audience decide if they want to listen to him, and turns out, they do. And he never turned it into a grift, telling people, oh, if they come for me, they'll come for you. They're trying to take away free speech, and we can't let them win. And the only way to win is to subscribe to my Patreon. That way, we can beat them together, in a way where I get all the money. I have a lot of respect for him just getting on with doing what he does. And who knows, Disney rehired James Gunn after he made jokes about banging kids. Adult Swim's standards are way lower. The brand that became famous because of Aqua Teen Hunger Force is going to take the moral high ground? Hell, the other Rick and Morty creator, Dan Harmon, actually sexually harassed one of his writers who worked on Community. He's still got a job. So, good luck, Justin. I actually do hope you recover from this in a way that doesn't result in you making animated programming for the Daily Wire. Forced to include Gina Carano because Baby Benny signed her to a deal and she went from potentially huge part of the Star Wars universe to woman who gets molested by Joe Biden in a movie about Hunter's laptop. Oh, there we go, Justin. Maybe you could voice the laptop. Oh my god, there's so much porn on me, and the keys are just full of coke and semen. What's this file called? Ukraine secret business deals and best hooker pickup spots.pdf. It feels like you just shouldn't name the file that. I think that's a fate worse than cancellation.